Yeah, welcome to our new episode of Treasure Chest at Fulfillment Tools. Today with a new topic. It's about inventory management, the silent backbone of retail and B2B business. Today with our special guest Svenja, we will explore why it matters, how it's evolving, and what the future holds. So first of all, welcome Svenja. Today we decided do it with external guests or internal, but we said no. We have internal experts which we want to discuss with. And yeah, it's Svenja, one of our product owners. But Svenja, please hand over to you.
Thanks a lot, Björn. So first of all, thanks for having me here. And as you already said, I'm Svenja. I've been working as a senior product owner at Fulfillment Tools for the whole topic of inventory management for quite some years now, and my background is in business and marketing, but then through my work in consulting, I came in touch with the whole field of software development and inventory, while we managed a CMS for a large retailer, and after that I became really interested in making inventory management smoother for businesses and enabling them with good tech solutions. So
Yeah, great to have you here. And let's directly start with the topic inventory management. Let's start with, let's say, about basics. What is inventory about?
For us, I would say inventory is about articles or products, which can be physical products, like for example, a retailer selling food, or can also be digital products like digital gift cards and so on. And inventory management is then mainly concerned with keeping track of these articles, and then also communicating information such as the available amount of these items to relevant systems, such as, for example, to web shops.
Okay, yeah, so it's really about get an overview about what are your inventory levels in the whole logistics network, etc., for several reasons and let's say stakeholders in that way. When we talk about inventory management, transparency is always a topic. To get the data transparent, etc., to share them all around. But could you explain to our audience why it is so relevant and at the same time so hard to achieve?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I would say like inventory management is really the backbone or the basis if you want to be successful as a retailer, especially in an omnichannel environment, because you really need transparent and high quality inventory data to be able to have a successful order routing and to be able to create visibility for your web shops and so on. Because otherwise you run into multiple risks such as stockouts and so on, which in the end leads to unsatisfied customers, which of course can never be the goal. And why this is hard to achieve is usually, especially large retailers have a multitude of systems. So they might have an ERP system, they have a warehouse management, they have an order management system or point of sale system for stores and so on. And this means you have quite different data. So the way the data is stored and also the way and the frequency that the data is synced to the shop and so on can really differ between the systems. And to aggregate all these data to create a single source of truth can be quite a challenge. So that is why the idea is simple, just create a single source of truth of inventory, create visibility, but to achieve that is quite complex.
And what's about the data quality in that cases? All this, let's say, spread out systems which let inventory data. Can you give some examples, perhaps, what you observed there? What was the challenge in your experience?
So I would say, first of all, you always work with humans, right? So it can always happen that a person makes a mistake, which as a consequence there is just wrong inventory data. For example, a mistake in inventory counting, right? Or in, I don't know, putting in a wrong number somewhere. Of course, this is like one point. And then you also have the challenge that the systems usually have a different update frequency. So maybe some systems update their data in real time, right? And others are only able to do a sync every 3 hours and so on. And in the end, that you don't have like siloed data, but the source of truth can be really hard in that case.
No, okay. Yeah, I imagine when I'm a customer going to a store, etc. Sometimes it's really that way that I pick an item, put it in my basket, go around, and afterwards I say, oh no, I don't need it, and I don't bring it back to the original place. I put it there where I am, and that means data are incorrect, and also the data you get from the system are incorrect. And at the same time, it's accessibility. So when do you get new information, new updates, etc. Makes it tricky to get this single point of truth on a real-time level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for example, as you described in stores. For example, if you use the stores as fulfillment centers and also ship from there, you also need a even better stock availability and correctness there, right? So some businesses sometimes apply kind of a safety stock or like a buffer stock in these stores so that they don't sync like the complete availability, right, to the web shop, for example, so that you can consider these cases where, for example, a customer takes something into the changing rooms and then the stock cannot be found when the personnel wants to pick the stock and so on, all these cases.
Yeah, I got it. So what you do is having a bigger buffer for stores, for example, than for warehouses, because us, the customers, have the big influence on the data quality, etc. Yeah, I got it. Thank you very much. How does the inventory strategy influence customer experience, but also the brand reputation? Has it an influence, and how would you describe it?
So I mean, we talked about that, right? That inventory management is really the basis of being successful as a retailer, and that is because making customers satisfied. A key for that is really making their deliveries in time, like a fast delivery, and also creating a seamless shopping experience, right? So especially nowadays, customers expect like to be delivered in every channel, like offline in the stores, that they also can buy online. And if you have like bad stock data, for example, and you run into stockouts quite often, or maybe the delivery takes longer than the customer expected, or that the customer was told, then you have like unsatisfied customers really quick. And in the end, this of course influences like long-term customer loyalty, and this can also have a detrimental effect on your whole brand reputation if that happens more often, right, through reviews and so on. If you want to have happy customers, you need high quality inventory data and visibility.
Yeah, thanks. Fully clear that me as a customer, when I move to a store, etc., an item what I want to buy isn't available anymore, but then I see in the store it's shown as available in the store or wherever else, that makes my experience good or bad, gives me trust into the brand, and makes me ordering again and again. I got it. We at Fulfillment Tools, what we develop, you with your teams, etc., overall, we call it a distributed order management system. And in a historical view, we all said, okay, order management, it's about order status and tracking the order status, etc. In our case, we say no, it's about network management, no? Because there are several sales channels, a huge fulfillment network, etc. So could you explain to our audience why, for example, an order routing depends so heavily on an perfect inventory management and vice versa?
Yeah, so looking at order routing, the most important criteria when you think, okay, where should I fulfill my order, in which store or in which warehouse, is of course that you need the relevant stock, right? Like when you want to fulfill an order and the stock is not there, okay, you have a problem. And that is why real-time and high-quality inventory data is so important, because when fulfilling an order, and then the person realizes, okay, the stock is not here, like there happens a short pick, then you need to reroute the order, right? And this all takes time, and maybe it leads to delays, and you have unsatisfied customers. So that is really the basis. And when looking at it a bit more advanced, I would say, you could say, okay, you can use routing to reduce overstocks, for example. So maybe create a rule that says always go to the store which has overstock to reduce this, because overstock can be costly and so on, and to use it in that way, for example.
Oh, okay. And what you mentioned before about stock quality from different systems, etc. It differs. I know you always talk about scoring, inventory scoring. So how good could you trust to that data against that data, etc. Because it differs, and you have to find a level for each system and each stock data to identify the trust level. Okay. When you thought you have spoken about stockouts or overstock, etc., what's harder to achieve? Avoiding overstock or preventing stockouts?
Yeah, good question. I think if you frame it like that, you will realize if the only goal is to achieve either of it, right? It can be quite simple, because I mean, if you say, okay, I want to avoid overstock, you just use a just-in-time strategy and you all just minimal excess inventory, or just reorder on demand. But of course, then you will realize, okay, you will run quickly into stockouts. You're not prepared for unpredictable demand or supply patterns and so on. So that's a scenario you also don't want. And on the other hand, if you don't want to reduce overstock, but want to prevent stockouts, and then you could just keep massive amount of excess inventory. Then you will never run out of stock. But of course, this is really costly, it takes up warehouse space and so on. So of course, the challenge is to create a good balance out of both scenarios. So usually you want to keep some excess inventory, because there are some cases you cannot predict, right? But you also don't want to hoard massive amounts. But I think the optimal balance will always depend on the use case, or on the business, on the industry and so on. Because maybe there are industries which are much more prone to disruptions in the supply chain and which are much more volatile. And in that case, it could make a lot of sense to keep really huge amount of inventory, right? And in other cases, it might not. So I would advise businesses always to consider really the ROI on that, and to create a good balance.
Yeah, okay. That's also what we, with our software, try to improve and try to support our brands and retailers, etc., by orchestrating that in the best way, especially preventing the inventory strategy, because it has a big impact on that. Let's see, we are in lives of global disruptions. We had the pandemic. We have this war here in Europe. We have this economic crisis going around, etc., etc. And so you have to change your strategy over time. When we look on the other side to the sales channels, what does inventory management mean in case of you're operating in multiple sales channels?
I mean, I think especially for large retailers nowadays, this is the common use case, right? You have maybe your own web shop, different marketplaces. And first of all, a challenge can be that each marketplace might have special requirements. So there are, for example, marketplaces which, where you need to ensure that a certain amount of inventory can be sold via that marketplace, and which also penalize you if you run out of stock. So you need some rule set in place that prevents that. But then you also, if you look at the basis for it all, you need to ensure that your inventory data is synced across all these channels, right? So, for example, if you don't work with the retail updates and you sell, I don't know, 100 via your web shop, and you don't reduce this availability in a marketplace, you sell the item twice. Like, as simply as that, right? Surprisingly, another point is that if you want to allocate your inventory to different sales channels, so maybe allocate a certain percentage to one channel, a certain percentage to another channel, you need to have like good values for that in place. Like you need to know how much percent should I assign. And when this is done manually, that's also lots of work, right? So in that case, when you use a system like an order management system, right, that supports you in that process, like with assigning, automatic assignment, automatic reassignment, and so on, this can be really helpful.
Especially in the logistics, we often talk about just in time. Mm-hmm. And when I look at inventory management, zero inventory could also be a goal of retailers, etc., to limit the costs, etc., really to reduce them to zero. Do you think it's realistic, or which challenge do you see in that case?
I mean, of course, this sounds like a really effective strategy, and where you can save so much costs by not having such excessive amounts of inventory. But I think many retailers realized during the pandemic, for example, a few years ago during COVID, or also a more recent example with all those tariffs, that this is also a really risky strategy, right? Because the risk of running into stockouts is really high in that case when you do just in time, reorder just in time, and so on. So, yeah, depending on the industry and so on, and it may make sense to keep some safety stock or excess inventory in place. Or you could also put up other, I would say, safety nets, such as, I don't know, for example, diversifying your suppliers. So not only rely on one supplier. In that case, maybe it's a bit less risky to work with just in time, right? So I think like really zero inventory and just in time, it's most industries not really so efficient.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree, and I think that's also the argument why we vote for activating the whole network to supply their inventory levels to every customer, every sales channel. But by doing this and using a DOMS, distributed order management system, we can help to reduce the stock levels in total, and at the same time to increasing the customer experience mm-hmm. and the reputation for the brand itself. Mm-hmm. When we look more into the future, and we see AI is topic at every conference, at every channel, etc. It's all about AI. What would you say is the benefit of AI in case of inventory management? What will come next?
I mean, what has been in place already for some years now is application of machine learning as a part of AI for forecasting, and especially demand forecasting. So with these models, you can use also lots of unstructured data, for example, like sentiment data from social media, weather data, and so on. You can use all of this for forecasting demand, and not only like in the past, maybe time series or so on. So for that, it can be really helpful and is already used widely. And I mean, with every progress in that field, the forecasts will get better. And of course, we know the better the forecast, the better the replenishment strategy, the better the allocation strategy, the less safety stock or excess inventory, like we talked about, you need to have, better the forecasts you have. But also, especially when looking at the whole development around agents, you can try automating parts of your inventory journeys or processes. So, for example, using the forecasting data as a basis for automating the whole replenishment process, and so on. You, for example, mentioned the scoring, right? So how reliable is my inventory data? Do you need to count it? Do I need to check it? And identifying certain patterns in your inventory data based on different data sources could also be a cool use case for using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think it's you with your team, tracking the inventory levels, alerting when you observe some mistakes, or let's say some factors where you realize something goes wrong. And also there, AI in a, let's say, later stage can help much more to automate the process. Would you say that inventory management will be automated fully in the future?
I mean, always hard to guess, right? But I would say in the near future, there's of course potential for automation, as I mentioned, in the whole forecasting, then replenishing, then reallocating process. I think this could be, there's lots of potential for automation there. But then also when looking at warehouses, warehouse management, working with robotics and with automated picking, automated slotting, there's also huge potential. There's already lots of robotics and AI in place, but I think it will even grow the application of these technologies in that area. And another example is like route planning. Analyzing the perfect route and then sending the vehicles to fulfill the orders, like the last mile delivery. This could be automated, and finally even like the vehicles themselves, like self-driving vehicles, right? That is a point. So I think at some point in time you could probably automate the main part of the whole journey. But I think what is important to realize that humans will still act as a kind of reviewer or like supervisor for these systems, because you still need to steer them maybe in some direction, or you need to ensure that you have the right data as an input and so on. I think it will probably, at least not in the near future, will be the case that there's no human interaction of all. But just the role that we play in the process will probably change.
Yeah. Next to the topic, what you mentioned, robotics and let's say self-driving cars, etc. In our case, automation means more or less automation in decision making, helping the people to get a better overview, to get a better feeling for the process in place, etc. And then automated reactions when something goes wrong, when you have to interact, etc. That not humans has to decide, the automation process decides what to do and best to do. Yeah, thanks for that. Last question for this episode. Would you say that AI automation also could help us, all of us, with our sustainable goals?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice that you bring it up, because maybe there are some discussions around like how important is that even at that point in time. But I think it's still like can be a big criteria of differentiation for many businesses, right? And I think there is so much potential in the recent developments, for example, for waste reduction. So, and waste in the sense of not keeping excessive amounts of inventory that need to be discarded at the end of the season, for example, because no one bought it. So as we talked about it, like the better the forecast, the less waste you have maybe at the end of the season. So in that way, like new developments in technology and inventory management can really help a business to be more sustainable. And also when looking at route planning, you realize that you can really reduce carbon emissions when just like trying to fulfill the order on the fastest route possible, or also just quite simple when using like multiple stores or small warehouses as fulfillment centers, and really reducing the geodistance that needs to be crossed before delivering the order to the customer. So I think there's lots of potential in inventory management to help businesses become more sustainable already now, but I think it will be even more potential there in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, listen to you. I think potential is the main word for here. Inventory management has a huge potential to improve businesses, processes, but also climate goals. Thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for your insights. Very interesting, getting an overview in such short time about such a complex topic. So thank you very much. Thank you to the team behind the scenes, and thank you very much to listen to us, and please give us your feedback, and see you soon. Bye.